The Oklahoma Sooners were so close, but yet so far away. What went wrong? What went right? We'll discuss on today's episode of Locked On Sooners.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Sooner Nation? Welcome to Locked On Sooners, and thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers, and shout out to those joining me in the live now that we are final. Oklahoma falls 26-14 in Oxford to the Ole Miss Rebels. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Go place your first $5 bet, and you'll get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed over at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. That's FanDuel.com. The Oklahoma Sooners came into this one, I think myself, along with many, many others, had no real expectations. I think when you make a coordinator change, and given what we'd seen out of this offense for 7 games, I think probably most of you, like myself, and maybe some of you were optimistic, but most of you were probably just kind of wanting to see what was going to happen. You wanted to support your team. You were going to be as optimistic as your fandom would let you, but overall, you kind of went into this game thinking, let's just see what happens, right? Well, what happened is Oklahoma played a pretty good game for the first 30 minutes of football. They actually had a lead at halftime, got up 14-10 on Ole Miss on a great 2-minute drive by Jackson Arnold, Javonte Barnes, and the Oklahoma Sooners offense. And I thought the defense played well enough in the first half. They gave up some chunk plays, but they rallied when they needed to rally to force some stops, to get a 4th down stop, force a field goal. And listen, Ole Miss just wasn't running away from you in this one. The defense was doing its job, keeping you in the football game. The offense actually moved the ball and scored 2 touchdowns. Like, that is in and of itself an improvement from what we'd seen the previous 2 weeks. And then the second half happened. You do get a little bit of things going. You get some momentum going, but penalties kill you. Your inability to protect the passer kills you, especially in the fourth quarter as time's ticking away and you got to get a touchdown with about 5 minutes left to go. The offensive line just could not protect Jackson Arnold. The offensive coordinator, Joe John Finley, put Jackson Arnold in a 2nd and 11 situation after that terrible decision to try to throw the throwback to Bauer Sharp to try and get some trick play in a moment when Ole Miss is not going to let anybody behind them. That is being preached ad nauseum through the headsets to the defensive captain, calling the plays. Everybody's talking. Do not let anybody behind you. Do not bite on anything. Don't let anybody behind you. If they try to run a stop and go, who cares? Just let them stop. Don't let them go by you. And so they run that terrible tight end pass to Bauer Sharp, and all he's able to do is get back to -1 yard of a loss. And that put Jackson Arnold in the offense behind the 8 ball. And it was kind of all she wrote at that point because the Oklahoma Sooners offensive line just couldn't stop anybody. Now, we knew going into the game that Ole Miss was really, really good up front, as good as South Carolina, maybe even deeper than South Carolina is up front. And that's ultimately what transpired. The Oklahoma Sooners offensive line could not stop Ole Miss's pass rush down the stretch. That's what Ole Miss wants to do. Ole Miss wants to get teams in obvious passing situations. And when they did, Oklahoma couldn't stop them. They could not slow him down long enough for Jackson Arnold to get a throw off. I mean, there were plays where he didn't even have 2 seconds to try and get a throw off. And that's kind of what it comes down to at this point. The offensive line situation is not good enough because of portal decisions, the inability to recruit through the portal, and the inability to recruit and develop over the last few years. I had really high expectations for what was coming in through the portal because of the experience that it had. I had high expectations for Jacob Sexton and Jake Taylor. And ultimately what happened is when Jacob Sexton went down, Logan Howland, a young kid, not quite ready for the game, was unable to stop some really good pass rushers of Ole Miss. And when that happens, when a team senses a weakness, they're able to exploit it. And that's exactly what Pete Golding and the Ole Miss defense did. They exploited Oklahoma's offensive line to the tune of 9 more sacks. Suntarine Perkins had 3. Princely Uman Mielian, had 2 sacks. Jared Ivey had a sack. And I mean, they had 5 guys with sacks, just like last week, 9 sacks. And it's hard to play offense when your quarterback doesn't have time. And maybe there were guys open at times in the passing game. But when you're under that much duress, it doesn't matter if anybody's open because your quarterback doesn't have time to set his feet and throw the football. A lot of times what you see happen when a quarterback's under pressure, and we saw this a lot in the Landry Jones era, right? Landry Jones was great, but when he was under pressure and wasn't able to throw or step through a throw, it could lead to an interception at times. Well, Jackson Arnold wasn't able to set his feet, and so some of the throws that he made just weren't great. And I don't want to bag on the offensive line. Ryan says it really good in the chat. They blocked well in the run game. I mean, Javonte Barnes had a really, really solid day. They blocked very well. Ole Miss came into this game allowing just 66 yards per game rushing, just 2 yards per carry for the season. And Javonte Barnes ran for 67 yards himself at 4.2 yards per carry. Taylor Tatum ran for 42 at 4.7 yards per carry. Jackson Arnold, now his numbers are going to be very skewed until I see what Pro Football Focus has to say. But he ran the ball well, but the yardage total is going to look terrible because of all the sack yardage. But he ran the ball in the game. So the offensive line did a really good job run blocking, but man, they were terrible pass protecting. And Logan Howland's going to eat a crow for this. He's going to take a lot of shots for this because of the game that he had, but he just wasn't ready. Jacob Sexton, obviously him going down, it really, really hurt you. And you didn't really have an answer at that point. But all in all, man, I mean, listen, if you came into this game thinking that Oklahoma was going to win, you're definitely disappointed. If you had expectations that they were going to win, you're disappointed. I totally get that. And listen, if you're Oklahoma, you expect to win every game. You're disappointed when you lose. That's the reality of being Oklahoma football. You go on the road the first time that you ever step foot in the state of Mississippi to play a football game, and you leave with an L. There's no way to sugarcoat that. There's no moral victories. You're now 4-4 on the season. You're 1-4 in SEC play, and you've got a good Alabama team. You've got a good LSU team, and maybe a good Mizzou team. We'll see. I'm not quite sure where they're at. But ultimately, this one comes down to the offensive line just wasn't good enough. You had chances in the second half, couldn't come through. You miss on that 4th and 1 at the goal line early in the game, and obviously that hurts. But again, another situation where maybe the play call wasn't great, but Ole Miss had it covered up. They had the tight end covered up well. They had Brennan Thompson covered up well, and Jackson Arnold was forced to force a throw in there, and Thompson just couldn't come up with the catch. It was not a great performance all the way around, but you had chances. I mean, you came into this one as a 19.5 point underdog, according to FanDuel today, and ultimately you only lost by 12. Again, we're not going to sit here and say that that's a win by any stretch of the imagination unless you actually took Oklahoma in the points, which I advised everybody to do on our Friday show. But at the same time, you can't feel great about the way that this game went down. Again, 14-10 lead at halftime, get shut out in the second half. You can't come through with your red zone opportunity with about 5 minutes left to go. And that's the game. That's the game. We're going to continue to talk about what happened in this game, talk about some of the good, some of the bad, and we'll take some of your comments and react to those as well. We'll do that coming up next here on Locked On Sooners. Today's episode is brought to you by the folks over at FanDuel. Again, go place your first $500 bet over at FanDuel, and you'll get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Win or lose, America's #1 sports book. NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. And when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can go check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started again with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's at FanDuel.com, America's #1 sportsbook. Again, thanks for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Again, shout out to all the everydayers out there and those of you who are with us here in the chat. Listen, it was a beautiful Saturday. I hope those of you that went down to Oxford got to have the full Oxford experience. Some of the pictures that were coming out of the Grove they just look great. They look so much fun. And it looked like a really nice day to go watch a football game. So at least you had that going for you, right? And you had a good football game. All in all, it was better than either of the last 2 weeks, right? Because you were in the football game. You had a chance. You were up 14-10 in the second half, and you just couldn't do enough. Let's talk about the defense. R&K Hepler says disappointed with the defense today as well. Listen, this is a really, really good offense. This is a really good offense that the Oklahoma Sooners played today. The defense did not play well enough. They didn't play good, I don't think. I thought they did a pretty decent job in the run defense department. Again, they held Ole Miss to 2.2 yards per rush, and theirs are not skewed by many sacks because Jackson Dart was not really under pressure very much. And that's a credit to Ole Miss's offensive line that kept Oklahoma's defensive line from getting into the backfield with much regularity. But they held them to just 84 yards rushing, 2.2 yards per carry. 69 yards rushing, 2.2 yards per carry. And in total yards, 380 total yards. Like, good enough to win, right? That's a good enough game to win. But really what it came down to is that Oklahoma could not stop the passing game. They were giving up too many chunk plays in the passing game today. The cornerbacks, just Des Malone, Kenai Walker, just weren't good enough. They were letting guys run open, weren't super competitive. Just too many open receivers in this game. The safety play in the pass game I didn't think was great. The linebacker play in the pass game was not great. Ole Miss just was able to do a lot of what it wanted to do in the passing game. Jackson Dart at times was even a little bit off. I don't think he necessarily had his best game because he was a little bit inaccurate in this one, and it allowed you to kind of get bailed out a bit. And so, listen, I thought they did a good job at getting Ole Miss into some longer down and distances, but then the pass defense just let you down. You just couldn't cover guys. And again, guys were just running wide open. And that's an unfortunate aspect, when a team as good as Ole Miss is on the other side of the field, you're going to get beat at times. But again, the defense held Ole Miss to just 26 points, came up with some really, really key, crucial stops that allowed you to stay in the game and kept this from getting out of hand. There was a key, fourth down stop early in the game. You held them to a field goal when it looked like Ole Miss was going to be able to drive for a touchdown, where, it could have been 21-7 in the first half, but the defense came through, held it to 10. So listen, the defense was good enough again, right? It's not the problem, even though the defensive backfield was not great, the pass defense was not great today, it still wasn't your biggest problem. Your biggest problem was that your offense couldn't come through in crunch time. And I thought Jackson Arnold played a really good game. I thought that he was really, really solid in this game. Let's look at the stats for Jackson Arnold real quick. 22 of 31, 182 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, completing 71% of his passes. I have a big issue with some of the designed wide receiver pass, the tight end pass concepts. Ole Miss was not going to let you burn them deep. You could see that on several occasions that they just weren't going to let guys get behind them. And the fact that they continued to go back to that, they tried it once with Brennan Thompson. I know they tried it another time. I can't remember who threw it the first time, but Brennan Thompson threw it the second time and it was incomplete. And then they tried the Bauer Sharp later in the game. And why are we doing that? Your offense just moved the ball to get you into the red zone, into scoring position, to give you a chance to pull this within one score. You got 1st and 10 inside the red zone, and the play call is a throw back to the tight end with the hopes that he's going to get the ball downfield for somebody in the end zone to get a touchdown. It didn't work. It didn't work when you tried to run it with the wide receivers. It didn't work with the tight end. It needs to be eliminated from the passing game. Just get it out. There's no reason to take the ball out of Jackson Arnold's hands. Throw a quick pass. Continue to run the ball. You've got a lot of time. Just run the ball. I understand trying to, take advantage of a defense that might be in over pursuit. Take advantage of a defense sleeping. This defense was not sleeping. You were having to drive for everything that you got today. And you got bailed out by some penalties by Ole Miss's defense, whether it was a face mask or roughing the passer or whatever it was. Like, you were not creating big plays. And I get you're trying to manufacture something there, but you've got to be able to just rely on your quarterback to drop back and throw the ball. And I get that the offense didn't have enough time to throw the ball. You couldn't just sit there and do a 3-step drop and throw it, but use the quick game. I'd rather them run a wide receiver screen in that moment on 1st and 10. And as much as I hate the wide receiver screen, I'd rather them do that or run a running back draw play or run the football. Something other than throwing the ball behind the line of scrimmage to your tight end and expecting him to be able to complete a pass for a touchdown. Get rid of that. I think it ruined what was a really solid performance by Jackson Arnold in this game. I thought it ruined what was a solid offensive performance in this game. And so as much as you want to get creative, I like creativity. Creativity's fine. But in that moment, in that part of the field, you just got to rely on your quarterback and your offense to just go make a play. Because again, it had been solid. And again, you drove the field to get yourself into scoring range. You drove the field to give yourself an opportunity to go make a play. So that one, now you're 2nd and 11. You don't really have a lot of options at that point, except Jackson Arnold's got to drop back to pass. And when that happens, Ole Miss's defensive line, which was way better than Oklahoma's offensive line, takes over the game. Arnold gets sacked. It's 3rd and long. You get sacked again. It's 4th and forever. You get sacked again. And that's pretty much all she wrote. That's pretty much all she wrote. Curbside Critic says every offensive coordinator tries to get too cute. Oh, that's not the one. There it is. Dude, it's one of the more frustrating things to watch sometimes. Javonte Barnes is having a baller of a game. Jackson Arnold is taking care of the football and taking care of the ball. And we're not taking advantage of that. Jacob Jordan is having a really nice game. Throw to him. You've got guys that are doing well. They're having some good games, solid games. Bauer Sharp, for all of his limitations, he's playing solid. Just run your offense. Quit trying to get too cute with it. Barbecue Bros, you're gonna have to let me know where your barbecue's at. If do you have a restaurant, Barbecue Bros? Is it just you really, really like barbecue? You gotta drop the barbecue restaurant in the place if you like barbecue, or if you've got a restaurant that you run. But he says when we did normal plays, we didn't look bad. Yeah, I mean the offense was moving the ball. He says it's just a hobby. Okay, well that's fine. Still, barbecue is awesome as a hobby. I fully support this. I just want just when you're down there, I mean, you're 1st and 10, you got 4 plays to get another 10 yards. Just keep moving forward. Just keep moving forward. I had a similar problem. 2nd and 18, they try to run a tight end tunnel screen to Bauer Sharp on 2nd and 18. And it's ate up by the Ole Miss defense. And then he's dropped for a loss and you're in 3rd and 26 at that point, and you're done. Again, I don't mind a good screenplay from now and then. I don't mind trying to find a way to generate some yardage, generate an explosive, catch the defense slipping a little bit, but not in those situations. Not in those situations. Spur your enthusiasm. Welcome back. I'm glad you're here. South Carolina fan that was was a good fan to have in the chat last week. He said, guys, you had them. We did. We had opportunities. We had opportunities. We just let them go. Just let them get away. We're going to talk about some of the positive things that we saw from this game because it wasn't a complete disaster. There were some disastrous moments. AP, I don't care what you have to say. Disaster is definitely a word that we can use when talking about Oklahoma's pass blocking abilities at the end of this game. We'll talk some of the positive things coming up next here on Locked On Sooners. Again, thanks so much for being a part of the chat and being a part of the live show. And thank you so much for being here and being a part of Locked On Sooners every single day. Hey, if you watch that game and you're trying to figure out what you're going to do with the rest of your day, make sure you've got ZBiotics Pre Alcohol probiotic drink with you. It's the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. So just remember to make ZBiotics your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. For best results, make pre-alcohol your first drink of the night. Pace yourself, hydrate, and get a good night's sleep, and wake up feeling refreshed and ready to take on the day. So go to zbiotics.com/lockedoncollege to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use Locked On College at checkout. ZBiotics is backed with a 100% money back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/lockedoncollege and use the code LockedOnCollege at checkout for 15% off. All right, so some of the positive takeaways from this, and we'll get also to your comments, your questions. We'll discuss some of that as well. Because listen, I think there were some really positive things that did come from this game. I thought that that Jackson Arnold was really solid and really good in this game. I thought he had a really good command of the offense. I thought he was under control. I never felt like the game was getting away from him. I never felt like he was playing unsettled, was playing rushed, was playing, out of control. I thought he was very much the quarterback that we saw maybe against Tulane, several weeks ago. He was running the ball really, really well. He was smart with the football. It's going to happen where quarterbacks miss throws, especially inexperienced quarterbacks. You're going to see some things on the all-22. The coaches are going to see some things where they wish Jackson might've been able to throw the ball or pull the trigger. But I really, really liked that they made the running back swing pass, the dump off, a much more functional part of the passing game. Like, how many times did Javonte Barnes take a dump off and pick up really good yardage, like 8 to 12 yards? It was on numerous occasions that Javonte Barnes was a really good check down option for Jackson Arnold. And so I like that Jackson Arnold was taking what the defense gave him. I thought he played a good, defensive football game, right? When you have a defense as good as the Oklahoma Sooners, you don't want to give the ball away. Now, the sack fumble that he gave up, dude, he had no chance on that one. It looked like a read option or maybe even an RPO, but that edge just came flying off the edge and had Jackson Arnold dead to rights probably before he even got the ball out of the running back's gut. And so, he fumbled it away. Ole Miss got the ball, but wasn't really able to do anything with it. Credit to the defense. But he protected the football, especially given how much he ran, how much he was hit, how much he was under pressure, how much he was sacked. Dude, he played good ball. I thought he played a tough game again, just like he did last week. And so, listen, you keep going back to Jackson Arnold until he gives you a reason not to. But he gave you opportunities to have a chance in this game. Again, let's look at the numbers one more time. He was 22 of 31, 182 yards, 2 touchdowns. There was a stretch in the second half where they weren't really getting the ball down the field. They weren't trying to move the ball down the field. They were running everything laterally. And then when they had to, they were throwing it down the field. I want to say, and this is just off the top of my head, I'll have to see what Pro Football Focus has to say about it. I think there were a lot of drops in this one. I think there were at least 5 or 6 drops in this game. And listen, you got to be better. You got to catch passes when they're right on your hands. And maybe I'm overestimating that. Maybe it's more like 4 or 5, but there were certainly quite a few drops that could have helped Oklahoma get positive yardage down the field. Drops happen, drops are a part of the game, but that certainly hurts you. I think, I thought that the game plan in the first half, I thought Joe John Finley did a pretty good job, save for a player here. I thought in the second half, they got away from, the quick passing game and trying to get the ball downfield. I like the run scheme. I thought that they did a good job running the football. Javonte Barnes continues to be one of your best, if not your best offensive player. And I know everybody wants to talk about his limitations. I know they want to talk about the things that he's not getting, but the dude turned out, 4.2 yards per carry for you, 67 yards rushing, and he had another 57 yards receiving. So he had 100 total yards on 21 touches. What is that? 124 total yards on 100 or on 21 touches. That's a really good game from your running back against a really good run defense. And dude, so Javonte Barnes, man, he's earned so much respect. I know everybody's been wanting to cast him off, but my guy, man, he really played a good game in this one. It's his second really good game. I thought I would have liked for them to go to him more down the stretch. Listen, I get you don't have a ton of time, but you can still run the ball just like they did at the end of the first half when they're, get the ball. They have a little over 2 minutes to play and they drive 95 yards, 94 yards for a touchdown. They ran the ball several times on that drive and it worked. And so you're in a position where, okay, Ole Miss is expecting you to throw the ball. Well, run a draw on 1st and 10, run it on 1st and 10, put yourself in a manageable second and you're cruising. Again, I thought they took the ball out of Jackson Arnold's hands, took the ball out of Javonte Barnes' hands down there at the end, especially if you can't pass protect, run the football, get the ball out of your hand at the quarterback's hands quick and run the ball or throw some quick stuff. They just didn't do enough of that in the final couple drives. I thought Jacob Jordan, man, I was really, really pleased to see that last week wasn't just this flash in the pan performance. It was nice to see him coming in clutch down there when they get the ball, 1st and 10 at the 2, they run that sprint out and Jackson Arnold hits Jacob Jordan, dude. It was solid, man. Solid catch, solid performance from him. There's things that he's going to have to clean up and continue to get better at. I think there was one play where he just didn't get deep enough into the zone or find the softest spot in the zone and didn't go exactly to where Jackson Arnold was going with the ball. A little bit of a miscommunication on that. But otherwise, I thought Jacob Jordan played a really, really good game. Bauer Sharp, listen, the dude, he can help you in the pass game. Don't rely on him too much as a run blocker. And please don't rely on him as a passer. I know he played quarterback, but we don't need to do that. And also, do not throw the tight end screen, when you're long down in distances and expect that he's going to be able to pick up 18 yards for a first down or even 10 yards to get you into a manageable third. Just don't do that. Get him out in a route and use his athleticism like that because he was good otherwise. Definitely had some drop issues, but you don't have many options in the passing game. So you got to find some answers out there. What else? I thought the run blocking game was really good. We trashed on the offensive line for their inability to pass protect down the stretch. But I thought for most of the game, until Jacob Sexton went out, the pass protection was pretty solid. Jackson Arnold had to make some plays at times. He definitely had some issues where he was under pressure, but that's going to happen against a really, really good or a really good defensive front like Ole Miss has. At the same time, for about, 45 minutes, 50 minutes of football, the offensive line played a pretty solid game. And then down the stretch, it just kind of all fell apart, mostly because you got into a situation where you had to throw the football. If you maintained some balance, if you maintained some semblance of a run game, even down the stretch when, things are kind of pulling away from you in the game. I get you don't want to run the ball every down because it turns out you got to create some big plays in the passing game, but you got to keep them honest at least, right? And so, listen, there's some elements of the offensive line that are solid, some that need a lot of work and need a lot of help. I kind of joked on Twitter that Michael Fasusi and Ryan Foje, hopefully they still come to Oklahoma, but get ready to play SEC football next year because you're going to have a chance to compete for snaps early in your Sooners career if you're still coming to Oklahoma. I hope you are. Could certainly use you. But I mean, I think there's opportunities for anybody. I mean, you're going to have to go into the portal and find some offensive line, but I mean, it's open competition, man. It's open season. If they want to get Eugene Brooks and Eddie Pierre-Louis on the field at guard, by all means do it. If they, want to, figure out some offensive tackle situation, you want to throw some Heath Ozida out there at tackle, I'm happy to give him a shot. Because listen, Logan Howland, he's got a lot of athleticism. He hasn't been playing offensive line long, but you've got to find a better answer than that this next couple of weeks before we get ready for Missouri. Again, the run defense I thought was good. I thought that they had a really good run defensive plan. But you've got to be, got to be better in the secondary. You got to be better in pass coverage, because if you're not good, it doesn't matter what you do on first and second down. If you're giving up, some big plays on third down, or you're giving up some big plays on second down. Let's just look at some of the stat comparisons real quick. Ole Miss had 15 tackles for loss. Again, 9 of those were sacks. Oklahoma had 8 tackles for loss. 7, and only 1 of those was a sack. Ole Miss was much more active in the secondary, had 5 pass breakups, 9 quarterback hurries. 60 of those, yards were sack yardage. Not good. Again, Oklahoma, you were only -1 in the turnover game, which, hey, that's an improvement from the last couple of weeks, right? The turnovers also didn't kill you, didn't get away from you. We want to talk turnovers. Taylor Tatum's got to figure out a way to hold on to the ball. He turns the ball over too much, or he fumbles the ball too much, and it nearly cost you in this game. Third down, Oklahoma was 8 of 18. Again, a solid performance when you don't have much of a pass protecting offensive line. So not bad there. Fourth down, 2 of 5. Again, you were forced into passing situations. You don't have a good enough pass protecting offensive line. It's going to be hard to convert on third and fourth down. Sorry, I'm just looking at some of the comments in here to react to here in a second. Some really good stuff over there in the comment section. I'm really glad you guys are here. Thanks for being a part of this. But anything else that really stands out from the stat? They ran 10 times on first down. I thought they were very effective. They averaged 4.1 yards per play in the game. Sorry, they ran for 10 first downs. They didn't run on first down 10 times. Jackson Arnold averaged 8.3 yards per completion. Again, a lot of this, I think, comes on the swing passes to Javonte Barnes. But yeah, so we're going to take another short break. I'm going to react to some of your comments over in the chat. Again, thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're coming back with some of your comments and reaction next here on Locked On Sooners. If you're hiring for your small business, you got to go check out LinkedIn. I know Oklahoma is in the hiring process right now, probably looking for an offensive coordinator. They got to go check out LinkedIn. When you want to find quality candidates that are right for the role, you've got to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the right tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire a professional like a professional. Over 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. So go post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. So some really good comments over in the chat. Keep them coming, but we're going to react to some of these. Again, spur your enthusiasm. Life in the SEC is hard. Facts. Ole Miss was 5-2, just 1-2 in SEC play, and for the most part, did what they wanted to against Oklahoma. Even though the score is 26-14. Second half it was all Ole Miss. Ole Miss absolutely dominated, 16-0 in the second half. OU sub 500 under BV. What is that our record now? Under BV? See, we're 4-4 this year. We're 6-7 we're not under 500 yet, but we're heading that way. Dalton Harkey says Seth Luttrell was never the answer. He was our best option at the time, and BV put his trust in him as long as he could. I debate whether he was the best option at the time. He was the convenient option. Was he a solid option? Sure. I'll give that he was a solid option. I just don't think that he might have been their best option. I think if they had taken more time, done maybe a more expansive search, opened their mind a little bit, maybe they'd have found a better option out there somewhere. Some other good comments. Chad Creamer says losing Sexton killed the O-line. 100%. You could not recover at that point. Logan Howland, with as much potential as he might have, just was not an answer for you on this day. BBQ Bros says secondary had no urgency and it killed us all game. 100%, man. I don't think that they're going to grade out very well in this game. There were several times that guys were wide open and several times that Dart missed wide open guys. Yeah, Jay Valai, Brandon Hall, your guys did not have the best game. Run support, probably pretty good, but pass defense, not good at all. Robert Klein says the run game was great today in this year's standards anyway. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I was happy with what I saw. The first half was refreshing to see. Dude, totally agree. The run game was really good, especially based on what we've seen out of this team this year. Hey, moral victories, right? We'll take a victory any way we can. And again, Javonte Barnes was good. The offensive line blocked well, but I thought Javonte Barnes just played really hard. There was a tough 4th and 1 that he had to get. He got it. He had to run through some contact to get there, but he did a really good job picking that up. And the first half was refreshing. You got to see 2 offensive touchdowns. You got to see them drive the ball. It wasn't just a big play that created the score. It was touchdown drives. I mean, let me go see if I can find their touchdown drives because their touchdown drives were 6 plays, 75. So that's Ole Miss. For Oklahoma, 8 plays, 60-yard touchdown. And then that one just before half, 13 plays, 92 yards for the touchdown. Again, you got aided by some penalties along the way, but that happens. Oklahoma came through. Hot Wheels says, I'm impressed with 88. Jordan, he looked awesome. He did. He looked really good. He is a ball player. He's somebody that you can help, that can help your offense and is going to help your offense down the stretch. Over the last 2 weeks, he's been your most consistent pass catcher. Today, last week he had the 6 catches for 86 yards. Today he had 6 catches for 38 yards. So over the last 2 weeks, he's got 12 catches. That might be more. I'm going to look it up real quick because that might be more than anybody on Oklahoma's offense not named Deion Burks or Bauer Sharp. So Jacob Jordan has played in 2 games and is going to be 4th on the team in receptions through 2 games. He'll be behind Deion Burks, Bauer Sharps, and Brennan Thompson after this game. If that just goes to show how underwhelming Oklahoma's wide receiver core has been this season. Barbecue, let's see. Dalton says Bedenbaugh is one of the top O-line coaches. We shouldn't get rid of him just after we lost several O-line players last season. Man, Bill Bedenbaugh is going to have to answer for some of this. Like, I don't know if they get rid of him. I don't think they fire him because, listen, he is recruiting well. At the same time, those guys aren't helping you this year. Your 2025 class does not help you this year. You've got to hit in the transfer portal. I think you're going to give Bill Bedenbaugh at least another year to get this straight. And if not, then you're going to have some difficult decisions to make at that point. But the offensive line that they rolled out today just can't be good enough. It can't be what you want your offensive line to be. DCP Story says, when are you people going to open your eyes? OU is in this position because of BV. Okay. Did BV go take a tire jack to the wide receiver's knees or hamstrings or gut? Is he recruiting your offensive line that's not holding up? Listen, Brent Venables has got some game management issues that he's got to continue to work on. He definitely is responsible for all of this. He's the head coach. He's the guy that leads your program. But do you like that defense? I kind of like that defense. Is it perfect? No, it's still got work to do. They've got some cornerback recruiting that they've got to improve, but it's pretty good. And the reason you're in this game is because of your defense. The way that they were able to defend the run and make enough plays to keep Jackson Dart and the Ole Miss offense out of the end zone. I'm not, one, you can't get rid of BV just yet. You got $44 million as a reason why, because of that buyout. And then secondly, I think the defense is on the right track. Get the offense figured out a little bit and you win this game. Have better pass protection, have a little bit better offensive plan in the second half. And I think you have a chance to win this game. I'm sorry. I'm not ready to replace Brent Venables just yet. Ronald says, I think we have a chance against Missouri if Jackson continues to improve. Yeah, I haven't seen what Missouri, I don't know what they're doing just yet on Saturday in college football, but I think so. I haven't seen anything from Missouri yet that screams to me that they're a better team than Ole Miss. They could certainly prove me wrong. In Columbia, because of the renewed, at least social media rivalry that's occurred between OU and Missouri, there might be some fire in the stands in Columbia. But yeah, I'm not buying that Mizzou is definitely a loss at this point. Yeah, I mean, the defense definitely did not play up to expectation. Ronald Portra says, Denny says 14-10 at halftime. I feel like the defense let you down. They did on a couple of drives, but on a couple of other drives, they were really good. And again, they kept you in the game. Spur your enthusiasm. What's going on in the Bama game? I'm not seeing the score just yet. I want to have to go over there and check it out because I told you, if you were listening to the picks against the spread on Friday's show, I'd said Vanderbilt plus the points against Alabama. Are they making me look smart right now also? Because I could take it. I could take a little Bama tears. It's just 3-0 Alabama. Bama is playing Missouri. I'm just all over the place right now. Bama's playing Missouri. It's 3-0. Vanderbilt and Texas locked up 7-7 in the first quarter. Excuse me, everybody. I'm not in the right frame of mind to be looking at all the scores just yet. But yeah, I mean, Bama doesn't look great. Missouri doesn't look great. LSU, I think LSU could win the SEC. I think they could be the second team against Georgia in the SEC title game. But yeah, right now, I mean, I think there's still a chance that if things can improve, if you can get Jacob Sexton back healthy against Missouri, against Bama at home, hey, maybe you got a shot. Alabama's not the team that we're used to seeing with the Crimson Tide logo on the side or the number on the side of the helmet. So yeah, let's see. Anything else here? Trying to look for a few more comments here to see if there's anything else. Dalton says Arnold had better protection, and we saw that change after Sexton was injured. 5+ sacks in the game. Yeah, I think they ended up with like 6 or 7 sacks, maybe in the last 2 drives, which is crazy. I think maybe there was just 1 sack up until that point. Caravan says, well, at least you could see that the Oklahoma offensive line can play in the SEC. Pass protection was great and run blocking was good. Oklahoma just needed to come out of the second half on fire. The pass protection was terrible on the final 2 drives. The run blocking was good. The pass protection was pretty solid for most of the game up until the final couple of drives. But yeah, you just don't have any depth. You got no depth. They've got no endurance. It's just not good enough, man. It's just not good enough. So there's going to be a lot of, if you're going into the portal this year, offensive line is still going to be the biggest draw. I think there was a really good question. I wonder if I saved that. Somebody asked a really good question earlier in the show about, do I think Michael Hawkins or Jackson Arnold stay? I think Jackson Arnold stays at Oklahoma. One, I think he's showing you that you can develop him and you can win with Jackson Arnold. You've got to get some things improved around you. So much of the quarterback position is dependent on things around you looking okay. And the offensive line hasn't, the wide receiver room is not. And that's kind of what you get left with when you're an inexperienced quarterback playing in some of these difficult environments against good defenses. If you don't have solid offensive line play and you don't have a group of wide receivers that you can rely on down in and down out, that's going to make it difficult on any quarterback, whether it's Dylan Gabriel or Baker Mayfield or Kyler Murray or Landry Jones. I don't care who the quarterback is back there. It's going to be really, really hard to win if you don't have good pass protection and you don't have a reliable receiving core. When Jacob Jordan is your most reliable wide receiver, I think it says something about where you're at as an offense. And I think he's good. I think he's got a chance to be really good for this team. But I think that goes to show that the rest of your wide receiver group is just not good enough. And that certainly impacts your quarterback. Why we can't somehow seem to get Zion Kearney out on the field, I don't know. Why we can't figure out how to get JJ Hester open more consistently, I don't know. There's just a lot of work to do. There's a lot of work to do. But I feel comfortable with Brent Venables. I think Joe John Finley did a solid job in the first half. Second half, got away from some things, tried to get a little bit too cute. And that's really my only complaints from him. Your offensive coordinator, he can't pass protect either. And the way that the game finished, it wouldn't have mattered if it was a 3-step drop, 5-step drop, quarterback rollout. Jackson Arnold was going to have a really, really hard time getting rid of the football and finding somebody open in that vein. And that's going to do it, man. Thank you so much for everybody that joined the show. Thanks to Spur Your Enthusiasm, to Ronald, Dalton, Barbecue Bros, to Danny, to Caravan, all these guys that showed up, DCP Stories, all those folks, Jade, Fox, everybody that showed up in the chat, those of you who left comments, those of you who didn't, appreciate you joining us here on Locked On Sooners Live in the post game. We'll keep talking about this game for the next few days before we get ready for what's coming next. Oklahoma is sitting now at 4-4. Don't maybe have one winnable game left on the schedule against Maine. You don't know what's going to happen the rest of the way. I mean, you're very much looking at missing a bowl and finishing under 500 for the second time in 3 years under Brent Venables. And that is definitely a hard pill to swallow, and certainly not going to be good enough for anybody that follows Oklahoma football. But until next time, I'm John Williams. Make sure you go follow the show on Twitter, on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok at Locked On Sooners. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. Go follow Jay at Unfair Sports. And again, we'll be back on Monday to continue to break down this game, figure out what we got to do better moving forward and what has to change moving forward for the Oklahoma Sooners to find some success in the SEC. And that's going to do it. Until next time, I'm John Williams. We'll catch you then. Boomer Sooner.